Right, I think we're live.
Do the front one.
Right, good morning everyone and welcome to Warmwell Watercress Farm. Today we are going to be spending a little bit of time, hopefully, explaining how we harvest a couple of very interesting products from Dorset. First of all, I need to explain where we are. We're on a watercress farm, so if I turn the camera around, there we go. That's our watercress farm down at Warmwell. It's a few miles outside Dorchester. Some of you may know where that is, but we're in the southwest of England, and this area is really well known for growing watercress because we have lots of spring water. So if I walk over here, I can show you the water coming into the bed, and this is the water that we use to grow the watercress. So it's very special for us because the farm here has been growing watercress now for over 100 years, and in the distance you can see there's a few buildings down there. One of the buildings behind that glass house is a very special storage shed, and it used to be used to store all the grain that was harvested in this area, and they used to harness the power of the water to turn the wheel that then turned all the cogs that allowed them to lift the big grain bags right up to the top of the building. So here we've got quite an interesting sort of mixture. Now the first thing we want to do today is just explain how we're harvesting watercress, but the harvester isn't here, so I'm going to just give you a little bit of a guide. If I lift some watercress out, first thing, if I hold that up there, that's the kind of crop that we're harvesting. Now we do that every day, so from May this year right the way through to now we've been harvesting watercress every day. This is an organic farm and we harvest probably about 3,000 kilos every week, and that goes off for sale into all of the supermarkets and shops all over the country. It's a very special product for us because it uses all of the minerals and the goodness in the water to grow the watercress, and that gives it all of its superfood status. So it's a really healthy crop, and I think many of the children over the years, I think it's about 9 years ago we started now, came from the Prince of Wales school all the way down here. Now Prince of Wales is obviously a very special school for us because, turn around, I'm back now, Mr. Spracklin has asked us to talk about harvesting. Now the harvesting here is watercress, but there are some flowers, and the flowers are used by a very special insect that lives on this farm. Now I'm sure you all know which that insect is, but if you, well, I think you're probably close enough, I could probably hear you from here. So if you all scream out in a minute when I count to 3 what insect that is, what we'll do is we'll sort of head over to and have a little look, and I'll explain what we've got. So 1, 2, 3. Yep, I think I heard that. That was bees. So we have got an amazing colony of bees that live on this farm. Now they are the #1 harvesters. What they do is they every day head out and they've got something called flower fidelity, where they go and choose a particular flower and they'll head off and they'll harvest all of the nectar from that flower, and they suck it up and they take it back to their hives, where they hand it over to all of the other sort of workers that are living in the hive that don't go out, and then they'll eventually turn that into honey. Now that is a form of harvesting, and the beekeepers that look after the hives, what they do is they harvest the honey at the end of the year. So we're going to have a little look at this hive. Now this is quite a unique hive because up until this year, this hive on this farm here at Warmwell down in Dorset had been left untouched for an incredible 7 years. So these bees have been doing their own thing. They've been living on their own, not being looked after, but they seem to be coping really well. But unfortunately the actual wooden hive, their home that they're living in, started to rot, and we found this hive just in time. So there's a very special team that come down here, and we've been 3-4 times this year, and we're slowly convincing the bees to come out of this old home that needs refixing and put them into a new one. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk over. Now the most important thing you know at this stage is you don't approach a beehive unless you've got somebody that really knows what they're doing. You also need to wear a suit, and that's what this funny little thing is behind me here, and that helps protect me from the bees, because the last thing you want to be doing is disturbing them and then getting stung. Now, generally they don't sting and they're very chilled out bees, but we've got all sorts of bits of equipment that we're going to show you in a second so you can see how it works. Okay, so if I just head over this way, what I'll do is I'll turn the camera back round and we'll go and meet the team. And here's the first question. So we've got a question here: are the bees friendly? Now, this is a really important part of the day. What we want to do over the next 10 or 15 minutes is hopefully get some questions from yourselves that we can answer with the team here. So we've got a couple of experts which will answer that question in a minute. Now, this location has got some interesting bee terms associated to it. So the block behind us over here is called Bee Block, which is interesting. And one of the beekeepers, her name is LB. That's what we call her, so it's quite convenient. Now, if I turn this around, here we go. There we go, there's LB.
Hi.
There we go. Say hello to all the children.
Hi kids. Ready for a lesson?
Yes, here we go. Right, James, if I can just ask you to hold that. Right, now on the left here, we've got Dennis. Dennis, do you want to wave?
Hi now.
Now, Dennis, how long have you been beekeeping for?
30 plus years.
A long time. And Elle, how long have you been doing it?
2 months.
2 months, 30 days, well,
Yeah.
twice that. So, yeah, what we've got is we've got lots of experience with obviously Dennis that we can tap into it. Now, the first question, Dennis, is: are the bees friendly?
This colony are, although a feral colony, are particularly gentle. We've been very surprised that a feral colony, that is one that established in an old abandoned beehive, have turned out to be so very, very nice.
Yeah.
Not one sting issued to date, and hopefully with the treatments we're giving and the food we've given, they'll come through the winter comfortably. Next summer, early spring, will be the challenge to move them into a new box using a Bailey comb change method, which we will cover at that point in time.
Good.
And then we will have ourselves a fully functioning beehive that this young lady now owns,
Yeah.
which will take her through to the next season.
Wonderful.
And produce lots of honey.
Good. Right, let's go and have a little look now. So
The
if
hive
we
tool.
head over this way. So this location is a little bit tucked away. We've got this fence here that we use to keep the deer out of the watercress because they love eating watercress. And then we're going to go through here, a little gate that we put in. And over here we've got a little stream in the background which the bees absolutely love. Over here, and then in this location I think you can find the hive. Here we go. Now, what we'll do is we'll open up this hive today, but the first thing we need to show you is where the bees go in and out. Now, if we go down to the bottom, you can sort of see some of the bees going in. So there's this little bit of foam, and that just gives them a slightly smaller door, so they don't have a huge door, but this is the in and out. Now these bees are flying in, and if you look carefully, the ones that are coming in have some pollen on their legs. So if you wait, here we go. There we are, you can see they're going in with pollen, and that pollen is on their legs, but they've also got nectar and they need to hand over that nectar. So I think what we'll do now, if we just come back here and have a quick look. Now Dennis, before he opens up any hive, the first thing he's got to do is he's got to create a little bit of smoke. Now what's the smoke for, Dennis?
The smoke calms the bees. Historically, bees have two main enemies: woodland fires and big brown bears.
We
Big
don't
brown-
have any bears in Dorset.
We don't have any bears, but there is always the risk of woodland fire. When smoke enters the hive, it distracts the bees from almost any other activity because they think we may have to leave.
Okay, so they're concentrating on the smoke rather than concentrating on your fingers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although with quiet bees such as these, we don't need to pump smoke into the hive. We simply need to have this functioning within the front of the hive.
Yeah.
So bees going back in will just let their friends know something's going on out there. And that's enough.
Good.
If bees became anxious, fractious, one could use smoke
Okay.
to bring
Calm
their
them
nature
down.
back under control.
So we've got a question here. So what is your suit made of, and have any bees ever snuck in?
It is just basic cotton material, as are most of the suits these days. When the Asian hornet arrives, we'll need armor plating. Yes, they can get through, being one layer, and if you've only got one layer of clothing only, they can get under folds and they push their back up against it and they can plant their sting through.
Yeah, quite.
And the sting always hurts.
Out. Right.
Ouch.
So let's just hope we're not going to get that today.
It won't happen today.
No. So I'm just going to go over here. I've got all sorts of holes in my arms here. So James, could you just... Oops. No, I'm not going to put the gloves on. I'll just go gloveless. Just slip that over. Hang on. Sorry about it. It looks like I'm in a washing machine. There we go.
Right, you've got a hive tool.
Right, so
Alright.
So
There
what
we
we
go.
have on already is a feeder. Now these are about 2.5 gallons of syrup on a 2-to-1. That's 4 kilos of sugar to 2 litres of water.
and what's this doing then? This is extra food for them,
This
it,
is
Dennis?
building up their winter reserves
Right.
because through the winter months they don't hibernate, they stay in a warm cluster and they need 35, 45, even 50 pounds of high carbohydrate food,
Yeah.
be that honey that they produce or a crude honey which we've enabled them to produce using sugar syrup.
Because these bees are obviously new to us, you're giving them a good feed so they can then rest for the winter knowing they've got plenty of reserves to live off.
Correct.
Okay,
The
so-
last thing we want is in the spring for them to die of starvation at the last hurdle.
Right, now what is this? This is a piece of wood with a couple of holes in it. So they're climbing through the holes, are they?
Now this is what we call the crown board.
Okay.
And these holes are designed to take porter bee escapes should we need to actually clear bees out of honey supers. This will be happening next year,
Yeah.
but at the moment it's just ventilation for the bees.
Oh, and what are you
Okay.
doing, Al?
I'm just loosening the sides.
You-
They seal up the sides with their
Propolis.
Okay,
basically.
so what's propolis? A little bit of glue?
Essentially bee glue.
Bee glue.
It's something they gather from a number of trees. Some trees, the bud saps, the buds will create a sap which the bees gather and they process that and mix a whole range of other elements with it. So it's not just a glue that they keep their hive stuck together with, it's something they can line the inside of a hollow tree with because these
Okay.
are still wild creatures.
Yeah, now we've got a question. Well, we've got actually a little statement here. Mr. Spracklin said the whole school at the Prince of Wales is watching. So I think
Wow.
you've got to wave.
I am impressed.
Oh
Hi,
my word,
kids.
right. We've got a
This-
question here. This is a great one. What do the bees do with the pollen once they've taken it into the hive?
Pollen is the product that they cannot survive without. It's their protein source. Every larval bee needs 125 grams of pollen in its development. It's either 1.25 or 125. I will find out
Yeah.
for sure. So in the course of a year, they will need, just for brood rearing, something in the order of 25 kilograms of pollen.
Yeah.
If that were put into one space, it would be 3 times the size of a hive. This is the sheer volume that they need.
Yeah.
So we not only look for a big inflow of nectar, which gives us the honey, but without the pollen, we would not have bees.
Brilliant. Now, what are they doing? So the nectar and the pollen are two separate things, but they need both of them. That's what you're saying?
Both of them in substantial quantities.
Now, there are a lot of bees in here. I think the children at the Prince of Wales want to know exactly how many bees are in this hive, do you think, Dennis?
Hopefully in the order of 45 to 50,000.
Have you counted them?
No, and I haven't named them either.
You sure?
Yeah.
Positive.
I think it's the kind of thing Dennis would do on a
And
night
Dennis's
off.
kids.
Yeah, these are children. I think
They're
they're
my
your
ki-
children,
they're
aren't
Yeah,
they?
your
actually, right.
children.
Well,
They're
Now,
your children.
talking about children, who is the mum?
Within the hive, we have a single queen. I've not seen her yet. I don't need to see her, but we have seen evidence of her, and that's all at this point in time.
She must be there.
She's there because they're producing brood.
Yeah.
If they're producing brood, they must have an active, gentle queen. And the fact that they're not fractious, if they lost their queen for any reason, they would be up and at us because they would be in a state of panic.
Now these bees, there's one or two of them that are doing something quite funny. They're putting their bum in the air and wafting.
That's right.
What are they doing?
When the box is open, they think, okay, just keep the machine going.
Yeah.
They think, what's going on? Let's create a homing signal for anybody that's out there. So they lift their bums, they open up their Asanov glands, and they start pumping out a hormone, a pheromone that is transmissible, and that's a homing signal for them to come in.
Okay. So they're saying, come on back.
Yes.
There's something going on, and what's going on here
Yep.
is Elle is about to use a stick again.
Her hive tool,
hive tool,
hive
not a
tool.
metal thing. Which is
You haven't
what I-
taken it out of the kitchen, Elle?
of which there are many
No.
designs.
So do you want to talk through this, or should we just get to the bees? I think
We'll get to the bees
Yeah,
at
let's
this
have a
point.
look at the bees.
Let's have a look. Oh, you can hear. You
Yes.
can hear a noise every time I do that.
Another of their principal means of communication is vibration. And
Okay.
these frames have been stuck
Yeah.
down
Let's see
with
if
a
we can
little
hear
bit
them.
of propolis. And when that is broken free, it is akin
Right.
to an
You
earthquake.
just hear
Okay.
a sort of surge. This
Here we go. Nice and quiet. Ooh, yeah. Well, that's getting them going a little bit, isn't it?
Now we'll have a look at that
oh,
frame.
the bee glue is right.
Ooh, right. So what's going on here, Elle?
I'd rather you ask Dennis though, so he can be more specific.
Now these frames have all been drawn out by the bees in the last 5 weeks. And they're storing food. You can just see listening in there.
And they're making this. So this extra bit down here, I'm just looking at now, that's all been created by the
They
bees.
will draw it out and then they will build on all the shapes that in space we allocate them.
So they use the same shape, which is this.
Which is natural to the bee. If the foundation weren't there, they would still draw that exact same technology. Yep,
Six sides, and it's made of what?
that's just pure beeswax.
Pure beeswax. So this is the kind of wax that, sort of mums and dads use to make the furniture look shiny.
Yes,
Yeah, so incredible, isn't it? I think the children will be loving this.
and the wax is produced by the bee.
Yep.
They consume in the order of 8 pounds of honey in the production of a pound of wax. So beeswax is a valuable, a costly product for the bees to produce.
That got them going.
Yeah, that did.
Yeah. We have a little more activity now.
Do they feel under threat now?
They are not sure what's going on, and perhaps it's early in the day and we haven't got the sun on the hive at this point.
Yeah, they haven't been.
Never. No. Against the little fella over there.
There we go.
Right, he's just a bit welded.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not laughing.
We're not laughing, Tom, really. We are.